Have you ever wondered which system is better for distribution of content on TV in restaurants or retail? Well, today we're going to compare the three most used technologies: coaxial analogic, coaxial digital, or HDMI. The distribution of signals for TV, music, or publicity in environments of business like restaurants, food courts at malls, or retail is one of the biggest challenges operators of business face today. In the market, we have two types: analogical and digital. Let's start talking about analogics. They're more economic, but there's a challenge in between keeping a signal stable and without interference. Also, there's limits in regards to the quantity of screens we can put, and it requires a little bit more maintenance. On the other hand, the signals of digitals have no loss and are exact. The advantage of digital is that usually one screen has two possibilities. It looks great or it doesn't. But after the installation, we're sure it's gonna look great for a really long time. The price of this kind of technology is more expensive, but it has its benefits. So, let's talk about the analogical signal. Here's the objective. It takes a signal from television box signal to a cable supplier or decoder SCSI signals in RCA. The origin and the signal must be analogical. So, if we have a digital signage box in HDMI, it must be converted to an analogical signal. And the two ways of doing it are analogical coaxial. This is the cheapest and the hardest to handle, so we have to be really careful with all the elements that we need. The advantage is that we can put it directly to the TV, because 100% of the televisions are compatible with this technology. The elements you will need are the coaxial cable. It must be standard RG6, and the materials are copper mesh and copper nucleus. This is important to avoid the loss in the signal. Next, we have the coaxial splitters. It must be seen with the best impedance possible. Remember that to watch television without interference, we must have at ideally 5 decibels of power and a minimum of 4. The impedance of the splitters indicates to us that we will have a big loss after the division. After that, we need the analogical amplifiers. This could increase the power of the signal, but usually they need a minimum of 5 decibels to the entry power, and it could increase up to 30 decibels. So the strategy is to put an amplifier and then a splitter with 6 exits. At last, there's the coaxial connectors. It must be RG6, and the form of attaching them to the cable must be pressurized. This is why we're going to need cutting tools and pressure to the tips. We have to ensure that the nucleus of the cable will come out at least 1 millimeter. And before we continue, attention please. Avoid at all costs to join cables or mix different qualities. In the analogical sign, what comes at the end of the cable is voltage, so that each connection could be varying the level of voltage, and it also could have interference or a low level signal. Also, take into account that some cables could get the television with more than the necessary decibels. So, the image could become saturated and the colors could change. Now, let's talk about the analogical coaxial RCI. This could be similar than the last one. Only add a coaxial or RCI connector to the tips of the cables and connect them to the TV. But the recommendation is to acquire an RCI distribution equipment. This will allow to amplify the signal without loss. So now, let's talk about the digital signal. The digital signal that goes into television is voltage and packages of data. This is why television must decodify the data and show it in the images. This shows a sharp image. The digital television systems have mechanisms to mitigate loss and correct data. We can have two types. Digital coaxial. It allows the data to travel the television through the standard coaxial cable, similar to the infrastructure that we use in analogical coaxial, only that this time it's not necessary to have coaxial amplifiers. Additionally to all these elements we use in analogical coaxial, we also have the coaxial digital modulator. This can convert an HDMI digital signal to a digital signal that can be transported in a standard coaxial cable. This is a big advantage. There are 3 constellations in which this signal can be modulated. The first one, it is ATSC. This one is used in North America televisions. Then, ISDV. This one is used in Central America, Panama, and South America televisions. The last one is DVB-T. This one is used in China. All of them have the same signal sharpness. The ISDV signal synchronizes faster. The coaxial cables can get distance up to 30 meters. And actually, the modulars have a power of 90 decibels. So we can place 20 televisions per modulator without the necessity of amplifying the signal. Then we have the coaxial digital decodificator. This is an equipment that you should place near a television and allow it to receive the signal in coaxial. It connects by HDMI to the television. This is not always necessary because 90% of the televisions with this incorporated decodificator, including brands such as Samsung, come with double decodificators, ISDB and ATSC. The process to decodify the signal is about 3 seconds. This is why there's going to be delay on the television connection. This time varies from television to television. That's why some televisions with the bigger quality will have a faster decodification. If the televisions are from different brands, you should not place them together, because the signal could be affected between each TV. And now let's talk about HDMI digital. The HDMI infrastructure is more expensive, but many times it reduces the operative cost of maintaining the signals on the screens. The signal travels by HDMI cables directly to the templates. The bigger the distinction, the bigger the cost gets. Also, we should take into account the standard being used, because for 4K resolution, everything must be in the version 2.0. And the elements we'll need are: first one, there's a splitter HDMI amplified and in waterfall. This splitter is important when it requires to be connected to the other waterfall splitters. Usually, the splitters have 16 entries. If you need more screens, some splitters have a manual configurator, EDID, to establish the TV resolution. Also, we will need the splitter HDMI standard. Now let's talk about the splitter HDMI standard. This conventional splitter can reach up to 16 ports of exit. It is important to know our splitter, because we need to identify the resolution of all screens connected and based on that replicate the specific signal in all screens. For example, if we have 4K screens connected, all the screens automatically will set to 1080. Also, it is really important to confirm that when a screen we set, it comes and goes, the signal will fall on the other screens. This is to avoid any inconvenience in the operation. And third, but not least, we have the HDMI cable. These cables are less than 13 meters, and it is not important when it comes to the different quality of manufacturers, because with that signal, most of them will work great. With distance bigger than 13 meters, you must look for copper coating cables, and the price of the manufacturer will rise. Also, it is possible to use HDMI cable extenders, so they can travel in UTP. This will allow them to reach a distance between 30 to 60 meters. So 100% of the TVs nowadays have an HDMI entrance, but the older the TV is, can handle. For example, a 5-year-old TV that supports 720p to HDMI won't have the capacity to be used with a splitter next to a TV that is 1080 or 4K. The televisions will always have the challenge of compatibility, because a 4K TV can produce signals between 480p, 720p, 1080p, and 4K. The biggest challenge is to find an infrastructure to find a signal that reaches all the TVs. So maybe this comparative chart will help you understand better. For technology, the coaxial analogical has a low resolution in 36p image, and the price is low. Coaxial RCA also has low resolution in 360p, and the price is low. Coaxial digital has good resolutions with 1080p image, and the price is high. And if we're talking about HDMI, the image is optimal resolution with 4K, and the price is high. But the case of the Acer source box allows to show digital signals. 1080p, ideal for digital screens. We hope this information was useful to you. If you know anyone that will be interested, please share it.